South America has some incredible cities, but none as underrated as La Paz in Bolivia. It's a place often skipped over, but I found it to be one of the most culturally rich, interesting, and delicious places to visit. It's a city nearly 4,000 meters above sea level, inside a giant mountain bowl where shamans perform rituals for Mother Earth. Buses are replaced by cable cars, and every single tourist is wearing a fake Patagonia jacket. Yes, it's as weird as it sounds. If you're visiting Bolivia's high-altitude capital, here are the top things not to miss in La Paz. Numero uno, ride the cable cars. I think this city has the most unique public transport system ever. Because it is literally so hilly and shaped like a bowl, buses and cars struggle to get around the city. So instead, the public transport system is a network of cable cars that takes you around the city. For locals, it's just public transport, but for tourists, it's actually a really cool way to get from one part to another whilst getting an incredible view of the city and the red roofs from above. It's the kind of thing that you'd pay for as an experience in another place, but here it's just the equivalent of a bus. One of the most unusual places in the city is the Witches' Market. Although Bolivia was colonized by the Spanish due to numerous uprisings by the original population, it still keeps that indigenous energy. There's an estimated 50 to 60% of the population that still identify as indigenous Bolivian. The Witches' Market is dedicated to the traditional Aymara practices. There are stalls filled with herbs, charms, powders, and ritual objects. But the most surprising thing you'll see here is dried llama fetuses hanging from the top of these shops.
Bit that's really different and unique for us to see that we've never seen before.
It's a traditional belief that these are buried underneath the foundations of houses as an offering to Pachamama, Mother Earth, asking for protection and for good fortune. It's fascinating and so far removed from what we know, and a reminder of how strong the indigenous culture still is here. The Witches' Market now is a lot for tourists, but if you want a more local experience, take the cable car up to El Alto that sits on the plateau just above La Paz. Here you'll see the true La Paz, with markets full of cholitas, the Aymara women wearing bowler hats, colourful shawls, and heavy layered skirts. Around the markets you'll also see amautas, the traditional spiritual healers, kind of like shamans. They perform blessings and rituals, and their colourful houses of prayer sit in a long line along the streets.
The closer that you are, the powerful the ritual is gonna be.
People come to them seeking help for health, business, or relationships. And if dried llama fetuses is making you build up an appetite, I've got just the food spot to recommend. Now, La Paz has some fantastic food, but there's one spot that sticks in my memory a lot. I still dream about it to this day. And it's a restaurant called Popular Cocina Boliviana, popular Bolivian food. And it is very popular Bolivian food. For the equivalent of $10, you get a 3-course fine dining style tasting menu. It is not a very well kept secret though. You can't make reservations. It's incredibly busy.
Top tips, number one is it's only open for lunch, so come early. We came about 11:40 and that was a perfect time actually. We just managed to scrape into the first sitting of people. If you don't make it for the first sitting, what will end up happening is you'll have to wait for people to eat a 3-course meal. So top tip number 2 is if you're not coming for opening time or before opening time, come a little bit later, so maybe about 1 o'clock, 1:30. So that means the people who came in and sat down first have finished their meal. Otherwise you will wait between 12 and 1. There are your top tips.
My favourite part is that each dish is using traditional local ingredients like quinoa, pumpkin, plantain, and Andean corn, but it's presented in this really cool and modern way. For the food you get, it's one of the best value meals that I found in South America of this quality. One thing you'll notice immediately in La Paz is that everyone is chewing coca leaves. The Andean people have used these for thousands of years to combat altitude sickness and to help with things like energy levels, hunger, and thirst. They give you a bit of a buzz, like a mild stimulant effect, which is pretty useful if you're living at 4,000 meters above sea level. The Coca Museum explains the cultural history of the plant and how it became controversial internationally because of its connection to cocaine. It's small but interesting and a great way to understand everyday life here in La Paz. The guy who owns it is also really enthusiastic and loves telling people about the history of coca. Just outside the city is one of the most famous mountain biking routes in the world. This road was once considered one of the most dangerous in the whole of South America. It was made famous internationally when Top Gear, the famous British driving show, did a Bolivia special shot on Death Road. Today, travelers come from all over to mountain bike down it. You're cycling in the mountain through forests, underneath waterfalls, and to one side is a sheer drop, literally to death. Not for the faint of heart, this one. But it is super exhilarating, and if you're a thrill seeker, definitely one to recommend. While you're outside of the city, consider visiting the Valley of the Moon. It's definitely one of the strangest landscapes in Bolivia. This area is filled with tall spires and eroded rock formations created by centuries of wind and rain. It's truly like stepping onto another planet. The other thing you get with high altitude is cold, and I've got just the cure for that. And this one's a little bit unexpected, but you're gonna buy a jacket. Now, for some reason, La Paz is famous for fake Patagonia jackets. There are rows and rows of shops selling these Patagonias, and it is the craziest thing I've seen because they're fully customizable. You can change the material, the pockets, the colors, the zips, the size. They will literally make it to measure. They're obviously not real Patagonia, but what I love is that when you travel around South America, you're constantly meeting people wearing these jackets, knowing they've been to La Paz, and it is a really cool souvenir to take away from the city. I literally still wear mine today because it is so well made and warm. And finally, just a few blocks away is San Pedro prison. It became famous for being one of the strangest prisons in the world. For years, it essentially ran itself. Prisoners either bought or rented their own rooms. Families were allowed inside. There were internal neighborhoods like shops and hairdressers and restaurants. It doesn't sound like much of a prison. There was one point in time where the prisoners used to even give backpackers tours of the prison inside, and they used to do drugs in there.
Craziest stories that I've ever heard of any prison anywhere.
Today the prison is closed to visitors, but outside in Plaza San Pedro, a former inmate known as Crazy Dave, yep, he goes by Crazy Dave, is in the square every day at lunchtime telling stories about his 14 years inside the prison. So if you want to learn more about the prison, you go there and you pay him and he'll tell you all of these crazy stories. Crazy stories from Crazy Dave. La Paz is unexpectedly brilliant. You could easily spend several days here exploring and would only scratch the surface. If you want to see more of Bolivia, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I've got loads of videos on South America in general and travel guides that'll help you inspire your adventure. Why not check out the adventure to the Bolivian salt flats and one of the most surreal landscapes I've ever seen.